If you're not giving, it's not a transformational relationship. If you're not experiencing gratitude, you're not experiencing it because you're probably not giving. You're not appreciating what you're getting. If it's a transformational relationship, you are receiving abundantly, and you should just be blown away.
Everybody here in this room has joined Genius Network because you're interested in growing your business and being even more successful. At least that's what I believe. Many of you have heard me say, I sell people what they want, but I give them what they need. Well, it's pretty obvious what you want. You want to grow your business and make even more money. One of the things I need you to know is a concept called transformational relationships. Our relationship began as a transaction. You wrote me a check or a credit card for $25,000. I allowed you to come to 3 meetings per year and have access to our community. For many of you in this room, it has progressed far beyond that into a transformational relationship, which means the focus is on gifts, giving, growth, and not keeping score. A good example is that of my relationship with Dan Sullivan. He refers more people to Genius Network than anyone else, and I refer more people to Strategic Coach than anyone else. We don't keep score, we don't exchange money, it's a gift. And both of us are transformed. Hence, it's a transformational relationship. It goes far beyond any transaction. There will be a book coming out on this subject by Ben Hardy on September 7th, 2017, but it already came out, and you all have a copy of it, and it's right back there. And I met Ben Hardy for the first time literally less than a year ago. And he had just given me a check for $25,000, which was a transaction. Less than 30 days later, he joined the 100K group, plus paid for his assistant, Rachel, who's back here, to join Genius Network as well. Obviously, Ben got such great value, and since that time, he's contributed so much to our mission by writing articles in Huffington Post, Forbes, Inc., Medium, and others. Ben is the #1 writer in the world on Medium.com. As a result, he and I have developed a transformational relationship with a gift I gave him, which is part of his message he's going to give you. The purpose of this 10-minute talk is for you to have a transformational relationship with Genius Network, and if you already have one or more, to increase that number. So Ben's title is How to Create Transformational Relationships. Please let me welcome the most amazing dude that I have met recently, Mr. Ben Hardy. Okay. Thank you. Thanks, buddy.
Okay, so I'm going to tell you for a minute what I'm going to talk about. I will draw back the curtains. This is what I'm going to cover. How to create the deepest possible human connections. How to create the most lucrative business. How to develop the most innovative collaborations. And also, I'm going to teach you a little bit about the magic that happens here at Genius Network and really kind of the magic of Joe Polish. What is all this stuff? I'm going to pull back the curtains on all of this stuff because this is what I've been figuring out, analyzing, studying, brute force learning for the past 8 months. So in September 2017, I joined Genius Network. I went to my first 25K meeting, and for about a month and a half before my first meeting, I worked a ton with this guy. I was really lucky. My Aunt Jane was actually a member of Genius Network for 2 years, and she told me when she found out that I joined, before you go to your first meeting, sign up for a 10-minute talk. Give a 10-minute talk during your first meeting and work with Joel. That's exactly what she told me. So I worked with Joel, worked with him a ton, and this was me after my first Genius Network meeting. Actually, that's not me. That's how I felt. This is what happened. I learned a ton from Joel, and also I developed a ton of what I learned about this culture. So I learned a ton. A guy named Dre Redfern immediately helped me to make $10,000 more a month to my business. He had his whole team working with me, helped me for free. All of this stuff was crazy, and so I learned very quickly the rules of this environment, of this culture. Joe says it all the time. Life gives to the giver and takes from the taker. That is the rules in this environment, and that is the rules for all of the things that I was mentioning before. Immediately, I joined 100K. I said, if I have this many epiphanies and this many experiences, I'm already getting this much, what's going to happen at the next level? My only goal was be helpful. I wrote an article about it on Inc. It's called What Happened When I Paid $100,000 to Help Someone. One of the things that really surprised me during my first 25K meeting was one of the first conversations we were having was, how do you get a return on your investment of that $25K? I thought, that is the most weird conversation. It seems so backwards to this whole focus on being a giver and not a taker. And then there was someone who said something really brilliant. He said, here's the secret that most people don't realize. You pay someone money, and then you help them. This is how you create 10x returns. By the way, that person was Jason Fladlin. He said that at, I think, 100K, or he said it at a recent 25K meeting. So here's a really interesting story.
Hey, I hope you're enjoying this video, and I want to let you know that I have a new book that's come out, and if you'd like to get it absolutely free, there's a link below in the description, or you can wait till the end of this video, or you can simply go to joesfreebook.com and you can get a copy there.
I don't know who here has heard of Christina, I think it's Tosi or Tosi. Anyone heard of her? Well, one person. That's my assistant. She happens to be one of the most famous pastry chefs in the world. People come from all over the world to come to New York to come to her place. It's called Milk Cafe in New York. It's been all over the internet. Not the internet, sorry. It's been all over like the media, the news and stuff. So 10 years ago, she was working at a very fancy restaurant. No one knew who she was. She was working in the back. She was a server. She was doing dishes and stuff like that. She needed a push. Here's basically what was happening. She had a huge passion, a side love for making desserts, for making pastries. She just loved it. It was what she loved to do. And she started bringing those pastries and desserts to her coworkers just because she just loved giving those things, and it blew their minds. By the way, this is a very high-end restaurant that she was working at, and her boss was a very famous chef. And he begged her for months, please let us serve your desserts at our restaurant. And she wouldn't do it. She was terrified. She was freaked out. She didn't actually see in herself what other people were experiencing. She just saw it as a passion. She enjoyed it and she loved doing it, but she didn't have the confidence in herself. Again, she needed a push. If you've ever seen the documentary Chef's Table on Netflix, please do it. It's one of the most aesthetic, beautiful shows ever. But in her boss's words, I just needed to push her off the cliff because she wouldn't do it herself. And so he one day said, you have 3 hours, and then whatever you produce, I'm serving, and you're getting credit for it. So if you produce crap, you're getting, that's you. So basically, she freaked out. She took 3 hours, and she produced a magical dessert. It was a strawberry cheesecake. It got raving reviews. And then she started making the desserts at the restaurant, and way more people started coming, even though this was already a really successful restaurant, because her desserts blew their mind. Fast forward a few years, she's one of the most famous pastry chefs in the world. So she went on to succeed, and she got a gift. That's one of the core components of what I'm calling a transformational relationship, is that you receive gifts, and it's something you cannot get for yourself. That's part of this environment. That's part of why you need to be a giver, and that's part of why there are so many givers in this room, is because there's certain things that you need that you can't get. You may need a push. I recently just published my first book, my first traditionally published book, Willpower Doesn't Work. I was pretty overwhelmed with the launch of a first book. I needed a push. I had a mentor who gave me an enormous gift, something I could not have given myself. So Dan Sullivan, he has defined basically what are the key components of healthy, powerful relationships. And those are the 3 components that I consider the core essentials of transformational relationships. Basically, there's giving, there's gratitude, and there's growth. If you're not giving, it's not a transformational relationship. If you're not experiencing gratitude, you're not experiencing it because you're probably not giving. You're not appreciating what you're getting. If it's a transformational relationship, you are receiving abundantly, and you should just be blown away and humble. And if you're not growing, if you're not being pushed, if you're not transforming, then it's obviously not a transformational relationship. In transformational relationships, there's no keeping score. There's no tit for tat. That's purely a transactional relationship. That's what we're talking about here. And again, that's not where the most growth happens. It's just giving, being humble, being blown away, and being grateful. Also, if you want to create transformational relationships, you have to be the one to initiate it. You've got to discover how to give, what people need, how to be useful. And you can't wait for others to do it for you. You just can't. So one other comment is just obviously you cannot do this on your own. There was a very famous philosopher. He once said something that really gets me every time. He said, self-made is an illusion. There are many people who have played divine roles in you having the life that you have today. Be sure to let them know how grateful you are. That philosopher was Michael Fishman. And that's one of the things that I have probably quoted more than anything else. Steve Sims has an entire book on how to create transformational relationships. He's called the Wizard of Oz of business because he knows how to create impossible situations, whether that's getting his clients on stage with Journey. How does he do it? He finds out what people want, he creates a win-win situation, and then he creates impossible situations. Dan Sullivan talks about impossible. He talks about going 100x. We talk about making a 10x investment or 10x return on your investment. Dan Sullivan's like way above that. He's talking about how do you go 100x. The only way to do that is when two givers come together who are operating in their unique ability, and they come together and they create transformational collaboration. It's where the whole becomes fundamentally different from the sum of the parts. And what's freaky about transformational relationships is that you don't actually know where they're going. With a transactional relationship, you know exactly what you're getting. And if you're not getting that, you're out. With transformational relationships, there's a lot of risk because you don't actually know what the transformation is going to be. Genius Network and Strategic Coach is an amazing example. Here at Genius Network, this is basically the purpose. It's to bring a bunch of givers together in their unique ability and to create transformational relationships. Again, what are the rules? Life gives to the giver, takes from the taker. We've heard Joe say it, and it's exactly what works. So here are some questions I have for you. Have you 100x'd your investment? How many transformational relationships do you have? Do you initiate? Do you give? Are you radically humbled and grateful? Are you growing? How much are you actually growing? How much are you pushing and how much are you getting pushed? One of my favorite authors is Seth Godin. One of the things he said is art is a personal gift that changes the recipient. The medium doesn't matter, the intent does. Art is a personal act of courage, something one human does that creates change in another. So my question is, are you an artist? You may think of yourself as a businessman or something, but are you an artist? Like Tim Paulson, and by the way, he has an amazing picture on that other thing. Joe Polish, we consider Joe a marketer or a connector. In my opinion, Joe is an artist. He creates art as a personal gift that changes the recipients. Transactional relationships don't change you. They're not gifts. There's no gratitude required. They're status quo. Transformations are where artists come together in their unique ability. They give their greatest gifts, extremely generous. There's growth. Here's my call to action. Create more transformational relationships, even more. You guys would not be in this room if you didn't have any. Create them more in your personal life. Create them with your clients. Give so much that it blows their minds. And then create them here at Genius Network. It starts with you. Again, it starts with you.
Okay, I hope you found that video awesome and useful. So if you want to get a free copy of my book, I want you to click here. And if you want to watch some more videos that'll be useful and awesome, click here. Go ahead. You're over here. Do it now. Come on. Thank you. Watch them.